Welcome. I'm Harmony Slater, your host of the Finding Harmony podcast. Over the past 20 years, I've taught thousands of yoga teachers and students to explore the intersection between ancient wisdom and modern everyday life, using mind-body practices to heal, awaken, and manifest their dreams from the inside out. This podcast is a sanctuary for those feeling overwhelmed by life's challenges. Are you ready to jump in and discover how these challenges aren't actually in the way, but are the way to finding harmony? Let's invite the magic back in. Hi, welcome to the Finding Harmony podcast. I'm your host, Harmony, and I'm delighted to share this conversation with you. I recorded this conversation with Julie Artis at the end of last year, and she is a dear friend of mine, a fellow coach, and also a member of the Awkward Sage Media Network. And this episode originally aired last year on her own podcast called Her Leading Story, where Julie celebrates women's leadership journeys and empowers listeners to step into their own leadership potential. And you can go check it out on the Awkward Sage Media Network. But before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that it wasn't until 1974 that women in America could even get a credit card in their own name without a male cosigner. This is something that Julie brings up in our podcast. And it really struck me that these are rights that we really take for granted, that our mothers and our grandmothers fought hard for. They're fragile. And so Julie is bringing into this conversation today over 25 years of her teaching expertise and her coaching experience to help women break free from patterns of undervaluing themselves and move more fully into economic power. She is a certified integrative life coach, sociology professor, and of course, a published expert, being a professor for over 25 years. And she helps professional women use cutting-edge neuroscience to create their careers and the compensation they deserve. And so we're going to get into it today. And in honor of International Women's Day, I think this is the perfect episode. I also want to share an opportunity for you to support women across the globe through Yoga Gives Back, which is the non-for-profit organization where I serve as a board of director. And every year, Yoga Gives Back helps over 3,000 women and children in India through microloans, educational opportunities, and scholarships. So I just want to invite you to visit my fundraising page and maybe make a donation this week to help women in India. I was there last year in the places where we support, the organizations that we support, and it was incredible to see women being able to break very misogynistic traditions in their culture, in their communities, and band together and empower each other all through having this empowerment of these microloans. They create little groups that work and create income together, and they help to protect their daughters and each other from domestic violence and other things that go on in their communities. And so I'm just so proud of Yoga Gives Back, and I think it's a really, really beautiful time of year to honor and cherish women and girls and to help break these cycles of poverty and create lasting change. So today's is a conversation where we are going to explore how women, wherever women are in the world, can move from maybe a place of competition into one that is more collaborative, and how we can recognize our true worth and really step fully into our power. Because as women in the world, we are meant to thrive economically. And when we thrive economically, entire communities transform. So I can't wait to get started. Let's jump in. So I'm here with Julie Artis. She is a career coach for women in midlife crisis transitions.
Yeah, sure. Just need something new. Yeah.
Yeah. But you also have a PhD in sociology, which is fascinating.
Yeah, I have been a faculty member and teaching sociology and doing various administrative jobs at a university for 25 years.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks.
Yeah. What's wrong with our society?
Capitalism? I don't know. That would be the number one sociology A plus answer, I think, is the
Late stage
late
capitalism.
stage capitalism. Yeah. No, I mean, I do think there's so much there.
It's complicated.
It's complicated. There's many variables.
That's a very good scientific answer. Well, I would love to hear, do you have any suggestions or rituals that can help us let go of our year? Because it might have been a rough year for some of us. It might have been a little harsh in
Yeah.
certain areas of life. So, how can we kind of regroup and reframe so that we're entering and stepping into 2025 in a positive light or a fresh start and
Yeah.
able to kind of release and let go, or I don't know, reframe?
So one of the things we were talking about before we started recording is that I have off and on done a major journaling kind of activity in December called the Annual Clarity Retreat. There are some resources online and I'll send you the link.
Yeah,
I
that'd be
didn't
great.
create it, a former mentor of mine did. And one of the things that we start with is actually looking back onto the year. In this case, it would be looking back onto 2024. What were the high points? What were the low points?
Yeah.
What do you want to release? What do you want to keep? And like really being reflective about the different sort of moments in 2024 that stood out in some way, right? Whether it was
Mhm.
good or bad. And I think journaling on that is one of the best ways to really, because sometimes I don't remember. I'll look back at pictures on my phone to kind of remember or go through my calendar to even remember what happened in the last year.
Yeah, totally. Me too.
I mean, because unless it's a big thing,
Yeah.
I've just gone on to the next. I mean, we're so busy, and taking that moment to sort of, I don't know, light a candle, have a moment of
Yeah.
reflection, have some
Yeah.
peace and quiet to think back on the year, I think can be really, really rejuvenating.
Yeah.
It's also a possibility you could make it more ritually, right? Where you write things down. I've done this before too. Write things down that you want to release and throw them into the fire, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like, definitely that would be something I find freeing as well.
Yeah, I've done that too, where I burn the things I wanna release and also the things, like, sent up my wishes or my
Yep. Oh, I've done that too with
manifestation.
the wish paper. Yep.
Yeah. But then I've also done one where I buried it into the earth, and that was
Oh.
fun too. I buried it in my garden.
Did you tear it up?
Yeah, I, like, folded it really small and then just buried it in the
Oh, I like that
dirt.
too. I've never tried that one. I'm gonna do that one this year.
Yeah, but now I'm always like, "I wonder what was on that piece of paper."
Well, it's growing your tomatoes now.
Totally. Hopefully it was good things. I like this idea that you said of looking back on the year and then really, like, paying attention and reflecting, and those are questions that I often guide people through. Sometimes I do a year-end retreat called Reflect and Project, and it's like, what's something that you wanna keep doing? What's something that you want to stop doing? What's
Mhm.
something that you want to start doing?
Yeah.
And reflecting on kind of those things, because like you said, we accumulate so much during the year and we're so busy, and without that time to really slow down and look at some of these things, we can just keep taking on more and more and more and more,
Oh,
and
yeah.
often we don't really need to.
And you're, like, mindlessly barreling into the next year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I occasionally will pick words of the year and everything, but I
Mhm.
think only picking a word and looking to the future
Yeah.
almost it doesn't honor what the year has been or what it has meant. And I think it's really important to, like, have that reflection and have that at the top of the mind before moving into thinking about next year or what's next.
Yeah. Yeah, we do that too. We pick a word to describe the last year and then a word for the
Oh,
future year.
that's good.
And it's fun too. Like you were saying, you can go through your journals and look at what you were thinking 5 years ago. If you have a place where you keep all your words, interesting because I always start the year off with, a word, let's just say like abundance or something.
Yeah,
And then when you're reflecting, you're like, insanity.
right. Dumpster fire.
And then and so it's so funny in a way too, because you're like, "Oh, yeah, well, that was a lot of abundance." Not in the way
Not the
I
kind of
was.
abundance I thought I was calling in, but exactly, exactly.
Yeah, so it can be fun too to
I
just be like,
know.
"Oh, yeah, that didn't exactly happen the way I imagined," but
Yeah, I mean, I also use it. I mean, other than just doing that, I think it's really important when you're thinking about the next year to think about what you really want instead of just going through the motions.
yeah.
And I know that having that practice, whether it's a short one, if I just condense it into a few pages, or if I spend more time and have more time in December, I think it's really important to have that sort of intention setting of what I want. Because
Mhm.
sometimes I'm not really sure what I want. And it's only in the process of thinking through the different aspects of my life, but really getting it down on paper, I think really helps me. I'm not super good about following up with like all the goals and the this and breaking it out into quarters and how am I going to plan to make this happen. I'm not that great about it, but I often feel like even just the exercise of setting a handful of intentions is really important. I think especially since the pandemic, I've
Yeah.
been really mindful about connection. Like how can I
Mhm.
connect in this age where we're also working remotely and in front of our computers and like you and I have
Mhm.
these businesses that run largely online, and so I feel like you can get sucked
Yeah.
into just really really being on the screen, and setting intentions about connection I think has been something that's really come out for me from looking back and then thinking forward about what would enrich my life.
Yeah, there's something really interesting. I don't know, maybe you know about this from a sociological perspective, but I feel like the internet online world that we do spend a lot of time in, being an online sort of someone who runs a business online, you really spend a lot of time connecting with people online in different ways. And it's like a weird time vortex. Whereas when you're connecting with people in in real life, as the young folks say, right? A very different time perspective is happening. I feel like there's something going on in our brains there that
Mhm.
like every day feels the same online, but then you have these moments in real life that
Mhm.
are very different.
For sure. The most recent experience I had like this was we were doing some hiring at my university for two different roles that I'm involved with, let's just
Yeah.
say. And so I was on the interview panel or team or whatever.
Yeah.
And for the first time in probably since pre COVID, we did the final interviews in person.
Yeah.
And man, what a difference it makes.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of blew my mind, like, how much easier it was to, like, interact and really get a sense, like,
Yeah.
a real 360 sense of the person, and, like, it really, I think, helped us immensely to have those, not
Mm.
just like, we did some on Zoom and then had the finalists come in person, and it's for a hybrid position, so the person isn't gonna be there
Yeah.
5 days a week, it's like a half and half or 3 days, 2 days home kind of a
Yeah.
situation, but there is this element of human to human connection and interaction that cannot be fully replaced by the flat screen, it just can't.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause we're energy beings, and I think we really, like, feel, and we get a
Yeah,
lot of information about people that is beyond words and beyond, like, just visual cues. It's, like, really somatic. It's in our tissues, I think,
I
and
think that's right.
we know stuff unconsciously.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think we're as a society, I mean, obviously, the politics, the wars, there's all this
Mhm.
anxiety. floating in the air. But I think the antidote to that is connecting with people
Yeah.
locally. And that's really the reason why it's top of brain is because it's something in the US that I've been thinking about since the election about
Mm.
really making sure that I have solid networks where I live and am in contact often with my neighbors and that kind of thing, like that
Mm.
kind of community, walking the dog more often and just running into random people. Because I think if you get stuck online for any period of time, it's almost like you get more cynical about
Yeah.
humans.
And you get into, like, a little vortex. It's you forget that, "Oh, there's a
There's a
whole bunch of real people in the world that I don't know."
And not only do you not know them, but I think online we tend to like attribute malintent often
Yes.
because people behind the guise of like anonymous posting or being able to
Yeah.
write instead of being face to face with somebody just
Yeah.
say meaner things and
Yeah.
feel more emboldened to do things like that. But I just saw my neighbor on Sunday and she was telling me this story just last week. She had two black eyes because she was walking to meet friends for dinner downtown. I
Yeah.
live in Chicago and she fell. Was taking a picture of something with her phone, but was putting it back in her purse and then tripped over a curb and
Oh
like
my gosh.
smashed her face like right here on her nose. Her glasses
Yeah.
flew off,
Yeah.
bumped her head, scraped all this.
Oh my gosh.
And she said, this woman came running to her to see if she was okay,
Oh,
sat with her. Somebody else in an apartment building had seen it nearby, had seen it from her window and came running out with ice and a first aid pack. And they helped her
yeah.
get cleaned up and sat with her. And one of them walked her almost all the way to the restaurant where she was meeting friends. And I
Wow.
think as she was telling this story, it's like, oh, yeah, people aren't all that bad. Like, there's lots of good people out there.
It's true. I think that's a really important thing to remember is most I don't know, I feel like most people IRL are actually like they want the same things
Yeah,
and we're social beings, we're community oriented. When we actually soften our guards enough to be with someone or meet someone or get interested, everybody just wants safety and belonging
yeah,
and like autonomy to be free or to live the kind of life they want to live. And that's at the heart of all humans, I
yeah,
feel, right? Like,
yeah,
we need all of those things. And so, yeah, when it comes down to it, I think most people actually give a shit about other people.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I just think sometimes our brains get warped by what we experience
Yeah.
online, and
Yeah.
then that's not good. I don't know.
No. So, taking some time to journal, to write down what we want, to reflect on the year that's passed.
Yeah,
And what do you think gets in our way? Especially like you work with a lot of women looking for a new career or in some kind of
transition.
transition in midlife, moving maybe from being a mom to more of an empty nester, or different
Yeah,
stages, maybe divorce, right?
yeah,
We all have these big transition stages or phases that we go through at different periods of our life. How can we create that clarity? I mean, I think the new year naturally puts us into this transition phase. We're like,
yeah,
oh, we're leaving this old year and going into this new year. So,
yeah, yeah. And there is like such a thing as in psychology as like the fresh start effect, right? Which
yeah.
is the idea that like it is good. You can leverage the idea of a fresh start effect by
Yeah.
deciding to do whatever you're going to do beginning
Yeah.
on New Year's. One thing is change is hard, right? We get in our routines and we get in our, especially I think when you're in your 40s and 50s, things are stable sometimes, most of the time. And it doesn't mean there's not difficulties, but there's routine and what you can expect. And so when you're going through or contemplating any kind of transition, whether that's a divorce or whether that's a different kind of job or returning to the workforce or doing a big pivot, it brings up a lot of fear and a lot of old experiences that we maybe haven't really handled. right? And you know what brings this up?
Mhm.
Working on women with their resumes.
Oh, yeah.
Because they'll pull up an old resume and be like, I have done nothing. Or I've had women start crying because they regretted something. They wish they had done a certification or they had forgotten about this sort of hard period earlier in their life. Or it just brings up feelings and memories about a toxic boss, right? And
Mhm.
so it's really, really important to make sure that you're processing those, right? And as much as possible with a therapist or a coach, somebody else who can sort of hold that emotional space for you and really be able to reflect back. Yes, I know you've been a teacher for 25 years, but teachers have tons of transferable skills. And here's how I would frame it that way. And so it's like about reframing it on the resume or on a LinkedIn profile or in conversation, but it's also changing the way that you see yourself from just a teacher or I don't know how to do anything else or nobody will hire me to starting to believe that it's
Yeah.
possible. And that can be really, really tricky depending on your past and like how much your confidence has been shaken. I think for
Mhm.
women, especially, we face additional barriers in the workforce, women of color, even more so. And
Mhm.
being in difficult workplace dynamics and then having the added sexism and racism that is often underneath the surface embedded in that can really, really play with our minds and get us to the point where we feel like we don't deserve or we
Mhm.
shouldn't ask for more or we shouldn't want more or if I change now, I'm going to lose this thing over here.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of times it's really about identifying what's true, really true, and
Yeah.
what's just the story you're telling yourself.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is so important. Really trying to see yourself or at least being in the presence of a coach or therapist or someone who is helping you actually reframe how you're seeing yourself
Exactly.
because that prevents us. It inhibits us so much when we're
Hmm.
feeling like a lack of confidence. Women, I think, like you're saying, I mean, we have a lot of sociological pressures that men don't
That's
face,
right.
right? If you put on 10 pounds or 20 pounds, you start to feel like, oh, I'm being judged and insecure.
Hmm.
I don't think men have that same issue.
No. Ex-
Women start to age and we start to feel again, oh, people are not looking at me. They're not responding to me the same way. There's like a whole syndrome, I think, like the
hmm.
invisible woman syndrome, right?
Hmm.
It's like women after a certain age feel invisible and largely in society, especially in Western society,
Yeah,
they are, right? Again, it's like if you're not beautiful and youthful, like so much of our value is placed on how we look.
for sure. Yeah.
Even in a professional environment
Hmm.
where as a professor, really we value you for your brains,
Right.
you know? But still,
Yeah,
it's still there.
it
Like
is
it's
still
still
there.
there for women and it's so challenging
Yeah,
to reframe that for yourself, I think.
it really is. And it's something that even though I
Mhm,
coach on this,
mhm.
I need a coach or a therapist to help me with my own shit about
Totally.
around this.
100%, I'm there with you.
I mean, even just this week, I had what was it that I had happen? It was something to do with the business, and I was like upset about it. And my coach was like, well, let's look at the numbers. Let's actually look at the data.
Yeah.
And then we went over it, and she was just like, this is to be expected because of A, B, C, and XYZ. And I was like, having like this overly kind of emotional negative reaction.
Mhm.
And I needed somebody else to show me
Yeah.
a different way of seeing it and to
Mhm.
really have that confidence on my behalf
Yeah.
that has really transformed the way that I do a lot of things, right? Because I would never have started a business if I hadn't had various forms of therapy and coaching along the way. I would have Oh my gosh. Never dated
Yeah.
after my divorce if I hadn't various forms of support along the way when I was 49 and like going on match.com, right? Like I did not
Yeah.
know what I was doing, and I had been married for well together for 20 years with somebody and just didn't I just couldn't believe that I would be able to like find
Mhm.
somebody that was a good partner for me or that they would wanna be with me. You know what I mean? And so you have to,
Yeah.
like it's
Yeah, you
I'm
gotta
just
talk to
tired thinking
someone.
about it.
Yeah, it's so helpful to have a coach or a therapist or someone who can really
Mhm.
ask you those questions and help you see things from a different perspective and can hold you in your highest and help you see yourself that way because the way we see ourselves also dictates the way we show up in the world.
Right,
And that
right.
also then dictates the way people respond to us.
Exactly.
And it's like a massive chain effect.
Yeah, yeah, and we also have, I think, another psychological thing is that we tend towards the negative for
Mhm.
ourselves anyway, and then we'll find confirming evidence that things are bad. So, like, I might have looked at the same data that my coach talked me through and been like, oh my God, this is wrong and that is wrong." And I would have been like convincing myself that there was a problem
Yeah.
when in reality, this is not a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's, what, our negativity bias, right? And is
Mhm.
it's something like you need 7 positive things to outweigh 1 negative thing,
Yes,
like,
yes.
neurologically in our brain?
Yeah, exactly, exactly, because a lot of us have a tape that's running that's just
Yeah.
nothing but inner criticism, and anytime there's any kind of cue of negativity from the outside world, we take that in as additional evidence
Mhm.
to prove the negative way that we see ourselves,
Yeah.
and building the muscle to quiet that part of the brain is tricky. And a
Mhm.
lifelong project, honestly, I think. I think it's one of those things that once you see it and you become used to it, you know it's there all the time, but it's also not something that you can easily and consciously control. So it's kind of like learning to live
Mm.
with the gremlin, right? That's what Brené Brown said. You can ride in the back seat. I know you're always going to be here,
Yeah.
but you don't get to drive.
What I like to help clients with, because I work a lot with the inner critic and
Mhm.
these voices and the parts of ourself that are feeling unloved or feeling unworthy is even more than just get in the back seat. It's come on. You have to learn to love it in a way, right?
Yes.
What is it that you want? What's
Yeah.
like why are you saying this? How are you trying to help me? What's your deeper desire? Because I think everything in our psyche, in our mind, in our life is really trying to help us in some ways, trying to keep us safe. It's
Yeah.
trying to keep us alive. It's
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to and especially as women, I think so much of our safety then is us being accepted in a group. And so we have a lot of unspoken kind of signs and signals in our collective female
Yep. Agreed.
world
Mhm.
that we're hyper aware of at an unconscious level. And we're always trying to like that's why most women suffer with people pleasing syndrome so much more than men.
Oh, yeah.
Why? Because that's how we survived,
Yes.
right? Was
Right.
by being nice and making everyone happy, and if we didn't, we'd get
Yeah.
burned at the stake or cast out and we wouldn't survive.
I mean, when I told my daughter or that we could women couldn't have in the United States credit cards or a bank account until the early '70s, she was like, "What?"
Yeah, I know, it wasn't that long ago.
It's not that long ago, it's within my lifetime,
Yeah,
and it's stunning that for eons, the way that, at least in Western society, women have had to survive has been to be attached
yeah,
to a man.
yeah, and not just be attached, like, be in service too.
Well, yes, exactly.
I mean, it might not have been that pleasant for a lot of them.
I imagine definitely not. For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's crazy when you think about it, and
Yeah.
so, no wonder we have all these old programs running that are, like, limiting us and telling
Mhm.
us, "Oh, don't do that. Oh, you're so stupid," or whatever, right? It's
Yeah.
just the voice that's trying to protect us because
Yeah.
it's scary out there when you're putting yourself forward and trying to be confident and play big in a man's world.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I even had a lot of like just even looking back on my journaling from 5 years ago, huge
Yes.
issues with visibility
Yeah.
on Instagram or Facebook or anything like that. I didn't want to put it out there
Mhm.
that I was starting my own business, that I wanted to coach women. Like I had all of these blocks around it.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to a coach in a program I was in at the time about this and what she said to me was like, "You say you're worried about what other people will think about you. That you're frivolous or why are you doing this? You already have a job. What are you doing?" She said, "But it's really you're judging yourself." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's so true."
I know. I've told myself that actually on several occasions because it's the same, I come from a yoga
Right.
background and, it's not spiritual to be in business. It's not spiritual to sell something online, or it's also like you're stepping out of your lane by
Yep.
coaching women. You're not like, who
Yeah.
are you to do that? You
Right.
just teach yoga, right? There's all kinds of things and you think, "Oh, everyone's judging me." And I'd be like, "No one's judging you. You're judging yourself. They're not even thinking about you."
Exactly, but it's so hard, and for me, I think that belief or that sort of judgment piece and, like,
Yeah.
worrying about what everyone would think took tiny baby steps
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
just getting a little bit more visible at a time and the world not implode. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, back to the
Totally.
safety thing, like, I would sort of post a little bit of something, and then I would pull back, and then a little bit, and
Yeah.
then it got to the point where I was like, "Well, now everybody knows what I'm doing, or they don't care."
Yeah.
You know what I
But
mean?
really also you just got comfortable with it. So
Yeah, and now I don't care.
yeah. Yeah, no, and it's so helpful to have someone also or even a group, like in a group coaching situation where you have people just holding you through that and
Yeah.
just being like cheering you on and being like, "This is great." Like it's so helpful to have a supportive community. And I think that's like, especially as women in this
Mhm.
world, we need other women who are encouraging and supportive and uplifting and sharing and like collaborating and not being competitive and
Yep.
not being bitchy and just like really, really supportive, nurturing environments. And I've been lucky enough to be in a few. We were in one together,
Yeah.
and it's
Amazing.
just, it's so healing. It's
Mhm.
incredible.
It really is. It really is, and it makes me I mean, I, of course, am thinking in the longer run about offering group programs because I just think it would be amazing for women at mid-career to be able to be in the
Yeah.
same space together to do that kind of work.
Mm.
And I also have just gotten an enormous amount out of being in groups of women all
Yeah.
pursuing a similar goal, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah, it's incredible. And I mean, also from like a sociological perspective.
true. And a connection perspective, right? Which is the idea
Yeah.
that, well, I mean, a very sociological perspective, which is that your identity is fundamentally shaped by what your parents reflected back to you when you were a child, and conversely, as you're growing up and into adulthood, what people reflect back to you
Mhm.
as an
Wow.
adult. And so if you are in a really supportive group setting like the
Mhm.
one we were in and the community that we were able to build as a part of that, it really makes a difference in your confidence levels and your ability to like, oh man, if she can do it, I can do this.
Right.
And really builds up the basis of a belief, right?
Mhm.
That you
Yeah.
can do this thing, whatever this thing is, like get in community
Totally.
with people who are doing the thing that you want to do
Yeah. Yeah.
because they will be the examples of something that you may not be sure that you can do yourself, right? And that's another way
Mhm.
to get at that belief thing is to
Yeah.
surround yourself with people who have something who are working towards something that you wanna work toward as well.
Yeah, yeah, because you see other people doing it and you're like,
Mhm.
"Oh, I can do it too." You believe it to be true because you can find examples, real life examples.
Exactly, exactly, but if you stay but that also is a little bit risky, like, going into some of these groups and, like,
Yeah.
"I want to be a coach too," you know,
Yeah.
or whatever it is that your goal
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there has to be a level of vulnerability for sure. Like, you have to be okay with being a beginner and starting something
Which
if
is
you wanna
not
grow.
easy when you're in your 40s and 50s, right?
Yeah, very difficult. Yeah,
Um, any of those kinds of transitions, I think, get more difficult in your 40s and
yeah,
50s.
yeah, but easier when you have support.
For sure.
What's that saying? If you wanna go fast, go alone, but if you wanna go far,
Go
go together.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, I think having some support and having someone be able to hold that space for you is really, really helpful, especially when you're navigating uncertainty or you're in the sort of midlife and you're like, "I don't really know what all this is for."
Right, when you're yeah, I mean, that's what happened to me, right? The pandemic hit months
Yeah,
before my 50th birthday, and it really led me to examine
yeah,
different parts of my life and what I was doing and how I wanted to spend my last decade or 2 working. What kind of work was really gonna make me excited, would really feel meaningful, feel like I was putting my best gifts to use.
mhm.
And it's not that I don't think I mean, I am a good teacher
Of course.
and I like my students, but, like, I really love working with women in their 40s and 50s on these issues, and I
Yeah,
really feel like it's something that is meaningful in a broader sense, just in the ways that we
mhm.
were talking about getting over limiting beliefs and trying to get out from under the internalized socialization, like, against ourselves that many of us
Yeah,
hold, and especially at a moment in the world
mhm.
where there's so much
Hostility.
hostility and misogyny that I think it's really, really important to support women in achieving, like, getting a raise, getting better benefits, going for a different job, really doing work that fulfills them,
Yeah,
whatever that is, if it's starting a new business or getting a new job or going for a
yeah,
promotion, because the more women we have in places of leadership, in places of, like, holding wealth,
yeah.
the better the world is going to be.
Amen, sister. I feel the same way.
And that's my big why. That's the
Yeah.
big thing. It's like there's this little micro piece that's part of this bigger mosaic.
Me too. Me
Yeah.
too. I feel like we need I don't know. I mean, I feel like it's not just us. For me, I feel like it's connected to cosmic consciousness, that there's like a whole goddess energy rising and she's
Mhm.
getting stronger and she's coming in full force and
Get
it like
ready.
yeah,
You
like
are way
it
more woo woo than I am,
I
Harmony.
know.
But
I know. Like you're either on board or you're not on board.
right.
And so
I
I know
just
you're on board.
I just don't know about the whole goddess thing, but
Yeah,
I wanna learn
you
more.
can ride the goddess. It's okay. She's gonna take you surfing on those waves.
Love it.
But yeah, I feel like it has to happen because those old hierarchies, this like us versus them, this masculine way of being in the world, this like non community oriented,
Yep.
but very like me centric.
Yep.
It's going. It's got to go. It's old. It's no use anymore.
I know. It's yeah, 100%.
That's my mission. I'm with you.
Yeah. I think there's a lot. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of us that
Yeah.
see that and are willing and want to support it and be part of the sort of
Yeah.
larger movement in that
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah, we have to. We have to include everyone because they're a part of us, you know?
Yeah.
And we're a part of them, and we have to, like, open the circle of love, and so it's like even opening the circle of love to the people who don't wanna be in the circle. You know, the
Yeah.
mama, the goddess is like, I know you don't love me. It's okay.
It's
It's
okay.
okay. I
Yeah.
still love you.
Yeah. Ex-
I know you're just scared. It's okay. I'm gonna take care of you." I don't know. We gotta do it. It's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I mean, we just have to keep showing up and holding space and supporting each other
that's
and
right.
creating the strength, right? The
Mhm.
collective strength
Yep.
and confidence and empowerment and putting the resources of wealth and
Mhm.
abundance and power into I
More
feel like
ways.
women who are waking up, who understand what inherent worth is and love and acceptance and aren't trying to just play a man's game, but
Yeah,
are like, "No, we're gonna do it differently,
that's right.
and I'm gonna listen to people that you didn't listen to."
Yep, that's exactly right. Exactly right.
It's so important,
It
so
is really it's a different kind of leadership, right?
yeah, that's what we
Fundamentally, it
need.
is
Yes.
not power over, it is power with,
Yes.
and that's what we need right now more than ever.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, thank you. I
Aw,
feel
thank you.
inspired.
I know. Let's go save the world.
I hope other people are jumping on our
I
bandwagon,
know,
on
yes.
the goddess, the
Join us.
serpent goddess,
Join
ready
us
to
on
surf the
Harmony's
waves.
Goddess bandwagon. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good, it's good. Tell everyone where they can come find you if they wanna work with you and
I
jump
would
into
love to hear from any of you if you are in the middle of a career transition and are looking for support. I'm on Instagram at Dr. Julie Artis is probably the easiest way. I have a website called Julie Artis Coaching, and I'll make sure that Harmony has all my contact info for the show notes. And
for sure.
so great to be here today and so great to see you.
Yeah, it's so great to reconnect with you too. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a real inspiring, pleasurable conversation for me. So we
That was
got to cheer
awesome.
cheer on all the women and encourage them
Exactly.
to be strong.
Exactly. All right. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Wait, before you go, I'm excited to share a special opportunity with you, our Finding Harmony community. This March, come join me and Russell in this beautiful town of Gothenburg, Sweden for an immersive 10-day yoga journey from March 21st to the 30th. There's different options for you. There's 2 weekend workshops and a full week of Mysore. You can come for the full 10 days or split it up. It isn't just another yoga retreat, though. This is going to be a comprehensive exploration of practice, combining traditional asana with deep therapeutic work, meditation, and also deepening your esoteric understanding of the practice. We'll be diving into possibly some spinal energetics, some somatic practice, the art of back bending and hip opening, weaving together all of the philosophy and practical yoga tools and education you could want. This is going to be an amazing time, whether you're a seasoned practitioner or you're brand new to yoga. There will be something in this retreat for you. So I would encourage you to come. Bring your family, rent an Airbnb. Spaces are limited. So be sure you book your space now. And to learn more about this transformative experience and to secure your spot, you can visit my website, harmonyslater.com, or just shoot me a DM on Instagram. My handle is Harmony Slater Official, and I'll send you a link and you can find out all the information there. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave a review. Share with friends who might find these conversations valuable. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring your magic. That's it. We've concluded another episode of the Finding Harmony podcast. I just want to thank you so much for doing the work that changes the world, starting with yourself. It truly does make a huge difference. Please make sure you have your automatic downloads turned on wherever you listen so you don't miss any of the upcoming episodes. I have so much more magic I can't wait to share with you. Lastly, if you're on Instagram, I love connecting and hearing from you. So come on over and say hello at Finding Harmony Podcast. And you can also come say hello to me personally at Harmony Slater Official.
Thank you again for being here. I cannot wait to share more with you in our next episode.